Good evening and welcome to the Revere School Committee meeting. It's November 21st, 2023. It is currently 6 p.m. Can we all stand and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Ferranti?
Here.
Mr. John Kingston?
Here.
Mrs. Aisha Milbury Ellis?
Present.
Miss Jacqueline Monterosso?
Present.
Miss Carol Tai?
Here.
Mayor Patrick Keefe?
Absent.
Mrs. Stacy Bronson Rizzo?
Present. Our next item on the agenda is recognitions. We're going to wait till the superintendent's report for that. Number 3, consent calendar that has been discussed at our previous meeting. Do we have a motion to accept the consent calendar?
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Ferranti, do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Ty, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. And next, we are lucky to have our student representative report. You can do it right from here. Yep.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Salsabo Mendoza. I am the junior student representative in place for the senior representative, Raihan Ahmed, who is unfortunately unable to join us for today. And this is the student representative report. First up is improving communications. From the last meeting, we mentioned that we now have an Instagram page up and running, and we have since pretty much polished it up. We have started posting things. We have posted our introductions, and it is up and running and ready to be used throughout the year. We also have our emails and our feedback forms. In the recent month or so that we have had it up, we have not been getting that much feedback from the student body, which goes for some extra work that we will have in the coming months and years, something that we have to focus on. Next. Our fall sports roundup. For football, we have a 4-6 record, and we are currently looking forward to the Thanksgiving game. I know that tickets have been on sale in the school, and there have been several announcements. For cheer competed in their state championships. It says this Sunday. I believe that they were the Sunday previous. And for boys and girls soccer, both teams placed in the Greater Boston League and qualified for the states tournament, so a pretty good year for boys and girls soccer. For girls volleyball, the team is getting used to their new coaches and their new programs, and all in all, really great effort. For golf, the golf team has actually won their first Greater Boston League tournament, so big congratulations to them. And boys and girls cross country, girl had runners qualify for states, while boys had a pretty good season. So all in all, fantastic job for our sports this season. Next. So for our school committee goal setting, essentially we have these goals in place to make sure that we know what's to come in the next year, make sure that we have some better transparency within the school committee, along with better understanding ourselves, better understanding the goals of the school committee. And this is to help us in the future work better. And we found that having, oops, I'm
trying to zoom in on your.
It's all right. We put it in a bit small. We found that members who have written goals at the beginning of the year is very important for the productivity of the school committee, and all in all, very important. And although it's very small on the slides, these are some of the goals that we have written for school committee members. So, update to Respire, which is the next slide. Yeah. So, in the past few months, we've been working on Respire for the past couple of months, and we have started to roll out our awareness campaign. We have posted our initial Instagram post, making it public to the student body, and currently trying to get engagement from the student body. Some of our goals in the coming months and the following year is to try and reach out to health teachers and health classes to spread awareness. This is very important considering that many students feel very have a level relationship with their teachers in comfort and safety. So it's important to have health teachers basically tell students about this program and make sure that there is help where help is needed. And we are also planning on potentially sending out an email to the student body to highlight Respire, what the program is about and what it can do, and just essentially, again, making it very obvious that we care about students and that help is needed. And this is basically our current situation with our e-cigarette policy. So club funding, around late summer, at the start of autumn, Revere High Speech and Debate went to Yale to compete in the Yale tournament yearly. And overall, all of our competitors had had a great competition and worked really hard, and we're very proud of them for it. The school committee has mentioned that if clubs in RHS have need more funds in order to cover costs, we were wondering if we could elaborate on what that could entail for clubs seeking to gain more funding for the school committee. And of course, it's very important when it comes to doing things in newer things in clubs, and especially as students try to branch out further than the Boston area. Our next slide. That's it. Oh, okay, I'll just quickly round it out. So we just wanted to ask for an update on transportation, anything on bus policies and other things, and if it has gone to the committee. So that is basically all that we added that unfortunately has not updated for our presentation. But yeah, that is the Student Senate report.
I'm raising my hand. Ms. Monterosa.
I have a few questions. Thank you for that. The first one is the slide of the school committee goals. Did I understand correctly that is made by the Student Senate, like the goals you all have for the school committee?
So, from my understanding of it is that these are goals written in research with local school committees, and it's, I guess, more for trying to increase transparency in constituents. Of course, I can get you more information on that than the information that I have here.
Okay. Yeah, it was just okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it was more of a sample.
No, I believe that this is the school committee goals that we have. This is like an actual picture of it.
So that's kind of like what our Student Senate body would like a school committee to achieve and work on.
Yes,
You can
I see.
get back to me. Okay.
Yeah, and if I have more information on that, I can get back to you on that.
Okay. And then your last point about reimbursements for clubs, are you asking us to give you an answer now on what additional funding can look like, or are you specifically asking for reimbursements from the Yale trip?
We're asking more on if clubs were to ask for funding in the future for like future endeavors and stuff like that, what that would look like and what the process to getting to that would look like. So that's the general question that we're asking here.
Okay. I'll see if someone else wants to take that one.
Anyone else? Ms. Ty?
Well, To me, it seems that it should be exactly the same as it is with sports teams. That sports teams set out 2 members of the school committee, 2 members of the city council, to just the general population of Revere, sometimes men's clubs, women's clubs, et cetera, to give donations. I know we all have frequently given donations, and the last one I remember was the tournament. And I was very proud of them for how they comported themselves and how well they did. And so I think that has been a very important part of it, and maybe we need to further discuss the actual process by which we could do that.
Yeah, that
We could have an actual plan about how, when, why, et cetera.
that's kind of what we lose my thing on. That is kind of what we are looking at, having more of a written out plan, kind of just what you're saying.
Good idea.
And if I could just add, I think that the process has been for a while that if any team, club, group, whatever the case may be, is invited to a competition, invited to participate. So as you go through the states, the regionals, the nationals, et cetera, we certainly fund all of those activities. There's a lot of fundraising that students do, but we always find a way to make sure that if they don't raise enough money, that we help them. And the school committee has been very generous in that, Carol, as you mentioned, but so have city councilors and lots of other people have really contributed a lot to that. So we certainly want to make sure everybody can get wherever they can go.
Ms. Monterosa.
So, but also just to clarify, the club can come to us and ask for additional funding if needing, just like FEM did, correct?
Correct.
It can be added to the budget and looked at.
Is that what you were asking?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
that's basically the question that student representatives want to know.
There you go. There's the answer then.
Thank you.
So Mrs. Monteroso had the same question as mine. I was looking at your goals and wondering if they were your goals or your wishes that were our goals. And many of these are things we have talked about every year consistently. A lot of times funding has a lot to do with it. In the past couple of meetings, I've heard the student representatives speak on what other school committees do. And I'm not sure where that information is coming from. I would like to, because I talk every single day to other school committee members to get ideas from things they might be doing, we might have an interest in bringing here, or vice versa. So, I mean, any information you can get for me, I'd be more than appreciative.
Yeah, of course, currently we don't have both of our student representatives on, but I will try to relay that information, discuss it, and then we get back to you on that.
Thank you. And maybe I'll just send something on Instagram too, when after someone reminds me to do it. Anything else from the student representative at this time?
That should be all for our report today. We can commence with what's next on our
Thank
agenda.
you, very informative. Next item. Our next item is public speak. Do we have anyone that would like to speak for 3 minutes on a subject online? Anyone in the room? I'll go first. Do we have anyone on Zoom that wants to? Do we have a motion to close that portion of the meeting for public speak?
I'll make the motion.
Do we have a second? All in favor? Oppose? Abstain? Thank you. And next one, oh, I'm really looking forward to this. Superintendent's report. Dr. Kelly.
Thank you, Mrs. Brunson Rizzo. The first item on the superintendent's report is the MASS, Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents Excellence Awards. And I know that you're looking forward to it, as I am, because every year, this is one of our favorite days. MASS, as most of you know, but for those in the audience, is the organization that oversees and has participation from all of the superintendents across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And they invite us every year to identify just a couple of students who show themselves to be exemplary and above and beyond what many of their peers have demonstrated. And we look at this from a variety of different lenses. There's academics, of course, but there's also, how does this person contribute to the school community? How do they contribute to the larger community? How do they contribute to helping teachers better understand ways to make sure that students are learning? So it's really a treat to be able to give these awards each year. It's one of my favorite tasks, which is a very short list. But this year we have the honor of celebrating 3 students. And what I think that I'll do is just read a little bit about each one of them. And I'll say that I didn't write these. We asked their guidance counselors and their folks from their schools to write a little bit. So I'm gonna go in alphabetical order, and then after I read about these 3 amazing students, we'll have them come up and receive their certificates, which hopefully their grandchildren someday will say, "What is that thing that you have?"
Paper.
That's right. The first is Dylan Blaisdell, who you met earlier this year from City Lab when he presented some work that he had done there. But the folks at City Lab wrote, "It's my pleasure to recognize a remarkable young man who has illuminated the mission of City Lab Innovation High School with his dedication and extraordinary accomplishments." We honor a student who embodies the spirit of resilience, tenacity, and determination. Dylan, it is with great pride that we recommend you for the Massachusetts Superintendent Award for Excellence. Dylan's educational journey commenced right here in the Revere Public Schools, starting in the Beachmont and concluding in the same walls, but it was not without its challenges. Tragically, Dylan's struggles within Dylan's family posed formidable obstacles to Dylan's motivation during his time at Revere High School. Navigating situations no student should ever have to endure, Dylan remained resilient and sought out a fresh start for his academics. In his second year of high school, he made the difficult and life-changing decision to transfer to City Lab Innovation High School. This turning point in his academic career would set the stage for his incredible achievements, where we are here to celebrate today. Since joining City Lab, Dylan's academic transformation has been nothing short of remarkable. Not only is he on a trajectory to graduate a full year ahead of his class, he has also amassed 18 college credits, underscoring his quest for knowledge and personal growth in the face of adversity. Dylan's desire to attend a 4-year university serves as a testament to his unwavering commitment to higher education and the pursuit of his goals. Furthermore, his remarkable grades and his choice to enroll exclusively in all college-level classes during his last 2 semesters at City Lab showcase his relentless pursuit of his academic excellence. It is an honor to present you with this recognition. You exemplify what it means to be a City Lab student, a Revere Public School student, and the possibilities that education and determination can unlock. You inspire all of us, and we eagerly anticipate the bright future that awaits you. Congratulations, Dylan, on your extraordinary achievements and the indomitable spirit you bring to our school community. Very nice. The second student that we're going to recognize tonight is Bianca Fiore. Bianca is tied for number 1 in the class of 2024 with a 4.56 GPA. Her resume is one that documents her dedication, hard work, and commitment to leadership to the school community. Bianca is a leader within the feminist empowerment movement, Summer Bridge internship program, public relations officer for the Power of No, and an active member of the Youth Health Leadership Council. Academically, Bianca has taken 7 advanced placement courses, 2 dual enrollment courses, and is a Writing Center fellow. So that's 9 college-level courses, almost a full year under her belt before she graduates high school. I should also point out that Bianca is the president of the math team and is on the Youth Health Leadership Council. And she has already received awards for excellence in AP Language and Composition, excellence in U.S. History 2, achievement in AP World History and Seminar, and is an AP Scholar with distinction from the College Board. Congratulations, Bianca. Okay, our third recipient is Malai Yalmaz. Did I say that right?
No.
Help me out. Melly, okay. Melly is also tied for number one in the class of 2024 with a 4.56 GPA with a near perfect math SAT score. Now, I can appreciate that as a former math teacher. Melly is engaged in rigorous coursework that includes 9 advanced placement courses and 1 dual enrollment course. Malai earned his highest score of a 5 on, earned the highest score, which is a 5, on 5 of his AP exams. He's a self-taught web developer and has participated in numerous extracurricular activities, including the coding club, founder, chess club founder, boys volleyball, and mentoring on the math team. Let's see, the colleges he's applying to are, the ones that he feels most comfortable going to would be Northeastern, BU, Boston College, or Tufts, but he's stretching, as he should, toward MIT, Duke, Princeton, UPenn, and Georgia Tech. He's got so many different pieces of excellent information on his resume. He had a 790 out of 800 on the math SAT, but he also had a 760 on the English. So that's pretty incredible. So congratulations to Melly. So Dylan?
I'm glad you're all as smart as me. I am so impressed. Spell my own name.
Everybody come up.
Bianca? Oh, yeah. What? Yes. And last but absolutely not least, Melly.
With Dr. Kelly, so Dr. Kelly, it's a superintendent's award, so can you get it?
Okay, sorry. Yeah.
Well, you know what, I'm getting hangry, let's go.
Congratulations to you folks. Congratulations. Without support at home, they couldn't have done it. Exactly. Thank you.
We're going to take a 2-minute recess.
Okay.
So me.
That was very nice, Dr. Kelly.
Very proud of our students.
You
They
should
do an
be.
amazing job, and without the support of their parents and their families, it would be a lot harder for them to do so. So congratulations to the Blaisdells, the Fioris, and the Yilmazes. Up next on the superintendent's report, we have a presentation from our directors of health and physical education, Jill Herwig, who oversees comprehensive health and wellness, and Frank Shea, who oversees athletics and physical education, are here to present. So I'll invite them up to the podium. Welcome, both of you. Bless you.
Thank you. All right, we don't do this that often. All right, thank you, everybody. It's good seeing everybody again. We haven't too. Thanks you. We are here, Frank and I decided to do this together today because this year, just recently, the state has finally approved, since 1999, the new health and physical literacy standards and frameworks for the state of Massachusetts. So this is kind of a new undertaking for us this year in our department, looking and kind of realigning all of our things. So we wanted to take some time today just to go over what these new frameworks are and what the work that we're going to be doing moving forward in both of our departments in physical education and health education to support our students in this new work. And then Frank would like to share a little bit more about the Unified Sports Program expansions, as well as the new development of the Athletic Council and Athletic Liaison at RHS. So the first part of the presentation, I share with the school committee, and I apologize, Stacy, this is the same, similar to what you saw at the Wellness Committee, but I will make it quick. Just wanted to share the new frameworks, kind of the overarching goals of the framework. Some of these are actually taken from the DESE communication that was gone out on their website a few months ago. But the frameworks actually have been in the works for the last probably 6 to 8 years, and it was the contributors of this work were educators, parents, caregivers, local community members, and whatnot that helped put this together. The frameworks themselves prioritize a few different things, from the idea of comprehensive health and the importance of physical education in a student's life, as well as it is inclusive, medically accurate, and developmentally and age appropriate. So everything was very carefully crafted in those realms for our students. They also emphasize critical skills and practices over just knowing facts and knowledge about health or physical literacy. It also encompasses the social emotional competencies as well to build our students' social and emotional skills, as well as it highlights key skills and content that promote mental health and wellness. And then as well as they are written in a way that school districts and cities can use the data that is designed to drive and pick and choose what frameworks are really best fit for the students in their communities. So our districts seen to look and touch upon every single framework in this document? No. It's made to develop what's best for the kids in that district at the time based on data and the YRBS data that we presented last year to the school committee, as well as maybe even local data, things that we're seeing within our schools at the various levels. So I did put together a few slides of just the exemplar of the skills as well as the topics that it encompasses. So the skills on the next page, Diane, for us. Decision-making, self-management, goal setting, movement skills, self-awareness, information resource seeking. So all of these are also based around the national standards at the national level of the health and physical education world. So really emphasizing skills because they're finding through data and research that just knowing things does not help improve people's health and physical literacy. It's developing certain skills. So emphasizing the skill development over content. In the area of content and topics, the frameworks are broken down into, I believe there's 7, that's a lie, 9 essential topics, which is on the next slide, Diane, for you. Healthy relationships, hygiene, mental health, nutrition, personal safety, sexual health and puberty falls into that realm as well, substance use and misuse, and physical activity and fitness. So within those skills, these topics are also touched upon at various levels. Again, medically accurate, developmentally appropriate, and age appropriate for each grade level. An example that I just included, just so this is kind of new to a lot of individuals, is so at the 9th or 12th grade level, what would happen is you'd find a skill, and then you'd find what kind of element you want to focus on, what topic. So in this case, it was accessing, evaluating, and using valid information and connecting it to fitness and physical activity, trying to figure out, are claims that are made in advertisements or on TV, are they beneficial and promote fitness, or are they there maybe as claims that are misinformation? So that is an exemplar just for you guys, and this is kind of the breakdown that Frank and I are going to be working on with our groups. In the realm of health and physical education, health this summer, we actually started this work knowing that this was coming forward. Our department came together, as many of the health educators in the department as possible, and really started to map out what are the learning outcomes that we want students to get by the end of 5th grade, by the end of 8th grade, and by the end of 12th grade. So that work is continued, and we're going to continue doing that over the summer. We even started to map out our elementary health ed curriculum with the wonderful addition of a second elementary health teacher. We're increasing access and the availability of it. It's been wonderful. We've gotten a great response from the principals in the elementary buildings of just having that extra person to go around and touch upon the different health topics. And we're really starting to pick the curriculum and really focus in that elementary area that was kind of lacking over the years, just with one person kind of trying to do it all. And then lastly, for us in the health world, and then I'll let Frank jump in, is we're going to continue this summer, from this summer, building upon our work during directors' meetings and after school and collaborative events with our health educators to start building and really mapping out lessons, units, and assessments and what this new frameworks will encompass. And hopefully by the end of this school year, we'll finalize the complete K through 12 scope and sequence of really what each grade level will be learning, and then really starting to still focus on the unit development and the lesson development of those things. So, Frank, do you want to jump in with phys ed?
Thank you. So what we're doing in physical education, as Jill said, our frameworks have been around since 1999. So we had a 80-page just booklet. So really wasn't practical. So we're meeting in grade bands, and we're going to come up with 3 separate curriculum so that it's easier to access and easier for a parent or an outsider to get where they're going without navigating through all the pages. So our teams we're meeting grade bands with 3 lead teachers, again exploring the new frameworks and making connections with our current practices. We're also adding. We worked last year on some non-traditional activities in sports that we had talked about last year: spike ball, pickleball, yoga, boxing, etc. We're finding places in the new curriculum for those activities because those are activities that we've noticed there's been an uptick with our youth trending away from a lot of the traditional activities into some of these new activities. I talked about that. The next topic I'd like to talk about is, again, we're going to continue with the expansion of our unified sports program. And in collaboration with our special needs department, Kristen Cormier-Murphy and Matt Nazaro and Tom Mackey, etc., have done a really great job in building this program. And I've really just aided them and given them some of the tools that they needed. But just the last year, we've increased our game opportunities from 4-game season to 8-game season in our basketball. And we are delighted to have been invited this year by the Lawson Foundation to have a special unified sports basketball game at TD Garden prior to the Lawson event, where they have anywhere to a dozen high school basketball games on a Sunday afternoon in January. So that's going to be a really exciting opportunity for not only our girls basketball team who'll be playing after, but our unified team as well. And tickets will be forthcoming through the girls basketball program and Coach Ariana Revere. We're also adding this year, beginning after Christmas break and running until just before February break, we're adding weight training with our unified program. So they will participate in a 6 or 7, whatever that stretch is, a 6 or 7 week program where they will be introduced to some exercises with weights, and they'll be able to chart their growth, and they'll be tested on their improvements. and it seems to have a nice little spark of interest going there as well. And again, in the spring, where we had just started with only a couple of meets, we're going to expand up to 6 outdoor track meets again, which is really a great opportunity to involve a lot of that population. And again, we couldn't do it without, you know, the coaches that I named earlier. They've really been fantastic. So we're really happy about the expansion of that program in such a short period of time. We also see a lot of not only Greater Boston schools, but other schools are joining in. So the whole program statewide has really just blown up in the last couple of years. So we're just elated to be a part of it. A couple new things at the high school. Under the guidance of Mr. Bowen, we've developed an athletic council, which is run by Mark Fellows and Natalie Kulatov, and they oversee our captains. So this past sports season, our captains report to them once a month, and we're going to call it an athletic council. It'll grow each season as we add more captains. And it's a way that we can increase student voice. It's a way that kids can bring some athletic issues and athletic opportunities and athletic decision-making to Mr. Fellows and Ms. Kulatov, which they don't feel intimidated necessarily coming to me or a coach. And then that will be relayed through my office, and we'll work with the students to create better opportunities and tighten up some weaknesses that we may have or the kids may have in those areas. So they've met a couple times, and they'll continue to meet once a month. And the last piece is also run under the guidance of Mr. Bowen. He has designated RHS Vice Principal Julianne Falzerano to be the Vice Principal Liaison to Athletics, which again is improving the communication between my department and the leadership team here at the high school. So we meet twice a month, me and Julianne, and we talk about upcoming events, we talk about eligibility, we talk about students in need, to just get those student engagement teams aware of some athletes that may need some help, some early intervention so that they're eligible for sports. And it puts a better communicative tool between the athletics that are going on in the high school with the admin at the high school. So that's been going fairly well as well. We've made some good connections there. So that's all I have. We have any questions? I thought
Anyone have any questions
very
for-
fast.
Ms. Milbury Ellis?
Jill, I'm sure you're going to come back and give us an update at some time in the future about the curriculum that's been decided upon, you know, with respect to the various grade levels.
Oh, yeah,
So
100%.
I look forward to that, and
Yeah.
I love the idea of the athletic council. I think that's great, giving the students a voice like that, and it's so needed and kind of like common sense, right? So it just seems like all good stuff and positive things in your field, so I'm happy for you guys.
Thank you. The best part of the athletic council's kind of been in the works, but it was one of those things that just never hit the ground.
Yeah.
So now that it's actually in place, we'll just continue to build upon
Build
it.
upon it. Yeah, wonderful.
Yes.
Mr. Kingston?
Last year, I had the opportunity to do the clock for the basketball game, and it's probably one of the best afternoons I think I've ever spent. And then last spring, or this past spring, excuse me, I went to the unified track meet, and I enjoyed that very much as well. So I'm glad to see these things are moving forward, and I'm very thankful for that, and thankful for the people that are involved that have been volunteering a lot of their time to do those things to help those kids, and I think it's just great. So thank you.
Ms. Ty?
A situation that has been with us for a long time, but came to light even more when not from Revere, but when a girl was hit, severely injured by a shot made by the boy. You know, we can't blame the boy, we can't blame anybody, but we still have to find kind of a solution for that. I don't know what the MIA is doing on this, Frank. I tried to find out, but
So I have a little bit of an update. So for the last year or two, Malden in particular has tried to get a jump start because they have a lot of boys who participate in field hockey. So they kind of were ahead of the problem. So it's been recognized as an MIA sport, boys field hockey. The issue we're having now statewide is nobody else is fielding a team. So the hope is that this unfortunate incident to this young girl will get some more interest in starting boys programs statewide so that the boys can compete against the boys. That's the goal.
is there anything that can do in the meantime? Because I don't foresee, I hope I'm wrong, but I don't foresee, 100 teams coming out there from all over the state.
I think it's, similar to sports like rugby, where there's only a handful of rugby teams in the state. That's the hope, that they can at least have half a dozen or 8 teams, and they can just compete statewide, and then eventually build the interest. But that was unfortunate, what happened. But it's similar to the way the law and the rules are read now, is that if you have a boy or a girl who want to compete,
Yes.
and you don't offer it in both sports, you have to give them that opportunity. So I don't see it happening overnight, but hopefully it happens sooner than later.
Thank you.
And to Ms. Ty's comment, this has been going on for about 40 years. We had volleyball. We didn't have a boys' team, so the boys played. It was very unfortunate. The board of directors and Mr. Baldwin from MIAA put out a statement, and I'll be more than happy to email it to everyone and share it. And I will say, at the last board of directors meeting, they talked about 10 to 12 new people coming on for unified sports. So that was really nice to hear. So I look forward to it.
Yeah, it's fine.
Thanks. Anyone else? Well, Frank and Jill, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. So, Dr. Kelly.
Thank you, Mrs. Bronson Rizzo. The next item on the superintendent's report is just an update on some of the entitlement grants. And did you all get this in your packets? I was trying to figure that out. You didn't?
No.
Okay. Let me send that right now. I know I was working on it later this afternoon, which is why I doubted it. But anyway, this comes from some discussion that we had earlier on making sure the committee is aware of some of the grant funds that we received. So I did just send you all an email. I recognize that you can't, you may not be able to open it right now, but I can actually pull this up on the screen and show it to you here so you can at least look at it that way. I have it open. All right, give me 1 second here.
Is this statewide, or is this particular to us?
Federal.
Us. These grants are for us. These are federal grants. And there's a couple of state grants that I'm going to talk about at the bottom. But let me see here. I think I have it open now. Okay. All right. So on the top of your page, which you see here, are the 4 title grants that we received. These are federal grants administered by the Federal Department of Education. And we get 4 of them each year. The largest one is Title I, and that's based on the number of students we have who live in poverty. And you can see that this year, that grant was about $3.7 million, a little bit higher than that. And what we do with that funding, the idea of Title I is that it helps students in low-income districts, specifically around literacy. And so we use this money to pay for our reading interventionists, to pay for paraprofessionals who provide some reading interventions to students at the elementary level, and we pay for programs like Read 180, Reading is Simple, and we also use Title I money to pay for our extended year program. So when we have the extra 15 days at the elementary level, Title I pays for all of that. Title IIA is focused on educator effectiveness and professional development. So we use those funds significantly smaller, 367, still 367,000, so still not an insignificant amount of money. And we use that to pay for some of our instructional coach salaries, so like the math coaches, literacy coaches, and also to pay for portions of Dr. Costa and Dr. Porter's salaries, because they construct the curriculum-based professional development that we provide to teachers. They direct all of that, so we're able to pay a portion of their salary through Title IIA. Title III is federal money provided for districts that have students who are English learner students. And that grant is at about $415,000 this year, 416 almost. And what we tend to use that money for is to hire paraprofessionals who support our English learner students in the regular classroom setting, and also to pay for some of our instructional tech programs. Like one of the ones that's paid for through Title III is RAS Kids, which helps kids learn language. And then we also receive funding through Title IVA, which is supportive of well-rounded educational opportunities, safe and supported students, and high-quality learning environments. And this grant we used actually to pay that, to have, Ms. Herwig mentioned the second elementary health teacher. That person is paid through this grant, as is a program that we use for our art teachers called Art of Education Pro. It's a professional development program that they can access online, and we pay the fees for all of our art teachers to be part of that professional development. In addition, we have the state entitlement grant that we got because City Lab, it's getting to be that hour, right? Because City Lab Innovation School has been approved for the career pathway program for next year in biotechnology, that comes with an entitlement grant of $75,000 while they develop out that program. So that's what you see under that entitlement grant. And then we also have, this was a competitive grant for the Mass Grad Promising Practices grant of $100,000 that the high school has received for data-driven best practices to support student success. And we're using that funding to help pay for student success mentors, credit recovery teachers, tutoring, personalized learning academy program development, the Compass Transition Program development and implementation. So again, those last pieces are in development as we work on making sure all students have the kind of customized individual learning experience that's going to make them be the most successful that they can be. And so that's a quick summary on grants.
So at this time, I would entertain a motion to accept these grants.
Mrs. Rizzo, can I ask a question?
Sure. Well, after we have a second.
I'll second.
We don't have a first.
I'll first.
Thank you. Discussion.
Okay. Dr. Kelly, it's great news that we got, over $4 million in grants. Is there a type of grants that if we don't use it all, it has to go back, or do we keep it regardless?
So they're all a little bit uniquely structured. Like Title I, you're able to actually spend that over a 2-year period. Okay. But the smaller ones, Title IIA, Title III, generally you have to spend them within the fiscal year. Okay. Occasionally they'll have parameters where they let you carry over a certain amount of it. Those federal grants we get every year because of the student population that we serve. So those we can pretty much rely on. These are the kinds of grants where if, heaven forbid, the government had shut down last week, we know that we have the extension through January for portions of the government and through February for other portions of the federal government. That's where we get worried, because when the government shuts down or if they demand budget cuts, they start pulling this money back. And this is money that we've committed, right? We already have that elementary health teacher that we're paying for. We already have people in all of these positions. This money is spent. If they were to go, it'd be in a little bit of a pickle. But so thankfully, our elected officials figured that out at least through the beginning of next year. But that's something that we need to continue to monitor.
It's the same problem every year with the government.
I know.
It happens the same thing. They just can't commit more than a year, or really 6 months before they do anything.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, on the first and second, all in favor? Oppose? Abstain? Love that money. Dr. Kelly, you have one more?
I did have one more, and this is really an idea that I'm going to give credit to Committeeman Kingston, because he brought it up last budget season about getting portable classroom units for the high school, where, as we all know, we're really bursting at the seams. And I wasn't quite sure last summer if that was the right time. We had talked a little bit about it. I was a little bit more hopeful at the time about the new high school being realized sooner than later. I think that you all know that the building committee got some negative projections on the culvert that cuts through this site. And I guess I would say that I'm less convinced at this point that we're going to see a new high school in the near future. Not because I think the city is not behind it or anything like that, but just I think it's become such a complicated project. That culvert is a huge challenge. And what we are hearing right now from the officials is that it would be foolish to try to build on this site until that's figured out. And the city has hired some consultants to look at the culvert and try to map out what needs to happen there. But they're further behind where we are in the high school project, and their work would need to happen before our work can happen. So I worry that we are really behind the 8 ball from where I would have thought that we were before. But so anyway, with that in mind, and also the idea that as Mr. Cruz, and I should have had him speak to this point earlier when he was here, but he can speak to you on this point again in December, as he's been refining our budget and looking at, as we mentioned earlier, Mr. Ferranti brought up, there are positions that we haven't filled. And so all of that becomes money that has not yet been expended. And even if we hopefully can fill those positions, we're coming on the point where we're almost halfway through the year. So if we had put $80,000 aside for a salary, even if we can find somebody to get into that job now, we're moving to the point where it's only really going to cost us $40,000. And so when you add up all of those little bits and chunks, there is going to be some money, a good chunk of money, and Matt's still doing the analysis. We also have had fewer sped tuition costs than we anticipated we were going to have. As you know, we have to budget that based on the enrollment and the kids that we have at a particular point in the previous school year. And he anticipates there's going to be a significant chunk of money left over in that line item. I think that with all of these things coming together, it's probably a good idea to look at the portable classrooms and see if that's something that we maybe even could get in place for second semester and alleviate some of the overcrowding that we have at the high school. And then long term, this is something that might help us with, even if there's a new high school built on this land and so this building is gone, the overcrowding at our other schools and even the Paul Revere, like we might even look into right now, do we get them a portable classroom right now to reduce their class size? And while we work on redistricting and that stuff, which takes several years to implement. So I guess what I wanted to bring it up tonight to start the discussion. And then with the permission of the committee, I will go forward and start researching what are the costs, what are the differences between leasing and owning, all of that kind of information, if that's something that the committee thinks is a good idea.
Mr. Kingston?
I understand about the culvert, I do. But when we had the building committee update here, I asked the question, are we okay with the culvert? And I have to be honest, I was told yes. And I know things change and whatnot, but I didn't understand it because I literally asked the question sitting here and was given a different answer than we're getting now. I know things change and whatever happened, but I don't understand it was almost like, no, we're fine, whatever, and now we're not. And when I saw that email, I didn't understand it because, I literally asked the question because it was bothering me at the time.
It was then.
And one other point, unrelated. Yeah, sure, go ahead.
The information we
So
received.
just the information, what we thought at the time was that we would be able to still build on this land and stay away from the culvert. And that's what the design was. That's why even when you got the update, we were looking at an odd triangular shape building to stay away from the culvert. What we learned when the OPM, just in the last couple of weeks, spoke to the consultant that's working for the city about the culvert, they said that culvert's going to fail in the next 8 years. And so their point was, go ahead, build your building, but we're going to rip up the whole front of it because we have to redo this culvert. And that's probably going to happen since it's going to take us, 4 years, 5 years from now to build a building. That means 2 years later, you're tearing up the millions of dollars in road work and everything else that you just did. So that's where it became, this would be a fool's errand to build a high school if we can't do it in a way that we are also taking care of the culvert either at the same time or beforehand. Does that make sense? I mean, it's not good news, but it's, yeah.
It just, because and I don't know how else to say it. It's you ask a question, you get an answer, and I know things might have changed, but it was really shocking to me because I asked a question and the way the answer was presented, it was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, well, 30 feet seems awful close and this and that and the other thing, but, all right, so you've
But
answered that.
I'm
I
gonna,
do have one.
to end to that too, they found out more because there were water main breaks a couple of weeks ago, and that's where they got most of their information, and Mr. Chamello brought that to our attention, so it was very disappointing to hear, but it's,
I have one other point.
go ahead.
I'll go back.
Madam Chair.
One more point.
It's about the portables. Anthony Caggiano, school committee elect, told me that they do have portable classrooms currently at the Voc. And he said they're very satisfied with the vendor and all that, that they are renting them. So it's just, point of information if maybe contact the Voc about their portable classrooms. Thank you.
Ms. Monterosso?
I think, I'd be open to the research. So my question is, where would the portables go? And then you mentioned second semester could be a viable option, but isn't that like right after Christmas break? So I think that sounds a little quick.
So second semester actually starts at the end of January.
Okay.
So, I think it does depend on whether or not we're renting or buying, and all of those questions will come in. I don't know exactly where they would go. A consultant would come in and tell us where they would fit. I would have, prior to 2 weeks ago when we had the water main break right outside of the athletic doors, I would have said that's a great spot to put them and just reroute, but I don't know if that's been completely refinished. I know the DPW was waiting for some different things to happen before they could finalize that project. So this would all be part of the exploration.
Okay. Yeah, I think making our research, and then for the other schools, I would be open to considering it for overflow, only if we're also, if we're talking about the redistricting and like seeing all of that first, because I've taught in portables and it's not sustainable for the long term.
Exactly. And I think the only place right now that would benefit from that, other than the high school, is the Paul Revere, where the class sizes are still pushing 30, despite the fact that we've put such an investment into reducing class size. We just don't have any more classes to put teachers in.
So with respect to the project and the portables, if you could include the plant and maintenance subcommittee on your discussions, that would be helpful. Ms. Ty?
I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but I'd like to remind everybody out there that when we were building the Rumney Marsh, we opened up down there, we looked at the culvert. The culvert that came down from the hill on the other side of Broadway came down, and then there was one piece of piping, enormous piping, of course, going across, and they did not meet. They were like this then. They must have been like that for years and years. It's just that that was the only time that we opened that space up. And they're not going to get any better. It's going to get worse. It will be an enormous project, and it will ruin everything that we have. And people are very short-sighted when they think that, oh, well, we can just do it in the same place. There are thousands of reasons. I've said them enough times, and so have we all. So there's no point repeating them. But that culvert has been a problem. And it was decided at that time that, you know, sort of, if it's not broken, then we won't fix it. Well, it was broken, but there were no repercussions at that time. So they left it that way. But it's, you know, an accident waiting to happen, a disaster in the beginning. So I can only give information.
Okay, Mr. Ferranti.
Thank you, Mrs. Rizzo. Dr. Kelly, I know we talk about portable classrooms, and I don't have a problem with it. At this point, and it's probably a little bit of a guess, how many portable classrooms would you put at the high school?
So usually the classrooms come in a configuration that you can have like 4 classrooms in one structure.
Okay,
And I'm thinking that if we had 2 or 3 of them, that would alleviate
some of the problems.
some of the tightness up here.
Now, my only other question, I know we talked about the par Revere, and it's probably something that needs to be done, but where would you even put it? I mean, it's tight there now. I mean, you can't put it in the parking lot because that'll just take away whatever spaces they have for parking. Well, it's just something that has to be looked at.
Walk out to it, I guess. You have to put it on the field and walk out to it.
Yeah, I think these are all really important questions that if we get to the point that we decide this is something we should do, we would want to engage the staff and the parents and, you know, the communities of each school to figure out what exactly is the right spot. Well, what's the best spot, I should say, because it's not right to put portable classrooms anywhere. So I won't say what's the right spot. I'll say what's the best spot.
So I am going to jump over to our school representative for comment.
I guess this is more of a comment on what I see, like in the school currently. In the stairwell that we have, our main stairwell, there's always a bunch of crowding, and like you almost feel like you can't breathe while walking down that stairwell. There's so much happening. And something that comes to mind is that if we do get these portable classrooms and we do figure out where to put them, how are we going to facilitate students leaving, getting into the building, trying to get to classes while also keeping, like, you know, doors secured and stuff like that?
Those are also important questions that we would have to figure out. When we had the portable classrooms at the old McKinley School, there was, I'm going to call it a breezeway. It was like a glass tunnel that kind of connected from one of the exit doors from the McKinley and went out to this portable classroom structure. And they did only have 1 4-classroom structure at the McKinley. Theirs was situated just on what you would now look at and see was a parking lot or a basketball court. If you're looking at the McKinley School, it would be on the right behind the post office. And that worked out well for them. We would need to think about if the same kind of a setup would work well for high school students. The one time I'm going to say it's good that this building has 9,472,000 exterior doors is because it would not be that disruptive to take over one of them for a purpose like this.
Ms. Milbury Ellis?
While we're on the topic of our bloated schools, I'm just wondering, are we still taking measures to ensure that all of the students in our schools reside here? And, you know, if so, I'd be interested to see kind of some of that data that we've had over maybe the last couple of years, just to see how we're enforcing that. I'm sure that's not going to alleviate the problem, but maybe there's some room there that, you know.
Yeah, we have 2 full-time staff members who spend their whole day doing residency investigations. And the 2 primary ways they do that is when a new student enrolls and the family says, we live at such and such an address. They go and check and confirm that they're actually living there. The family has to provide certain utility bills and things like that to demonstrate their residency as well, or a lease or a mortgage or something like that. Usually when we find out somebody's not living at the address they gave us, it's through returned mail. And when we get returned mail, that information is given to the residency officers, and the two of them conduct an investigation. The other way that we find out, typically with younger students, is they tell us.
Yeah.
And when that happens, we also make corrections. But one thing I do want to mention is that we do have a number of students who are homeless.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
Okay.
Notwithstanding special circumstances.
Right, so just for the community at large who might be listening to this, there are special circumstances when we do keep students who may not be physically living within the confines of the city of Revere.
I just, to piggyback off of what Ms. Milbury Ellis said, we did have someone leave the office, I forget the name of the office, for the truancy,
Yep.
the hunt. So has someone else been hired? I keep putting it out in a Twitter, but.
We have a resignation on hand. I don't believe the person has departed yet.
Okay.
I think it's a December 1st departure. I believe it has been posted. I'd have to check with HR.
It is posted.
Oh, it is posted? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. If you know anyone, it's important.
It is an important position, and I'll say that one of the things that we're hoping for is that we can get a candidate who speaks Spanish, because so many of our families do. The other residency officer who is still in district is not a Spanish speaker, so it would be helpful to have somebody who is. If anybody has a family member, the right personality, somebody who likes kids and likes families and can engage well with them, and that would be really important to us.
Okay, is that the end of your report, Dr. Kelly?
It is. Thank you very much.
Number 7, hearings, we have none. Number 8, report of the subcommittees. Anyone have anything to report? Seeing none, on to motions. Mr. Ferranti,
Thank you, Mrs. Rizzo.
read them fast.
I will. A, motion to encumber $21,000 for invoice 32 for Left Field LLC for September 2023 professional services. So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain.
B, motion to approve payment in the amount of $21,000 for invoice number 32 for Left Field LLC for September 2023 professional services. So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All oppose? Abstain.
C, motion to encumber $112,416.24 for invoice number 87970.00 for Perkins Eastman Architect, DPC, for August 2023 professional services. So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain.
Motion to approve payment in the amount of $112,416.24 for invoice number 87970.00 for Perkins Eastman Architect, DPC, for August 2023 professional services. So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Oppose? Abstain.
E, motion to encumber $80,796.40 for invoice number 87970.00 for Perkins Eastman Architect, DPC, for September 2023 professional services. So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain.
Motion to approve payment in the amount of $80,796.40 for invoice number 87970.00 for Perkins Eastman Architect, DPC, for September 2023 professional services. So moved.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstention.
Motion to encumber $25,440 for invoice number 9 for Consigli Construction Company for September 2023 professional services. So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain?
Motion to approve payment in the amount of $25,440 for invoice number 9 for Consigli Construction Company for July 2023 professional services. So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain?
Motion to encumber $21,000 for invoice number 33 for Left Field LLC for October 2023 professional services. So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain?
Motion to approve payment in the amount of $21,000 for invoice number 33 for Left Field LLC for October 2023 professional services. So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain?
Motion to encumber $119,261.48 for invoice number 87970.00 for Perkins Eastman Architect DPC for October 2023 professional services. So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain?
Motion to approve payment in the amount of $119,261.48 for invoice number 87970.00 for Perkins Eastman Architect DPC for October 2023 professional services. So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain?
Motion to encumber $25,440 for invoice number 10 for Consigli Construction Company for October 2023 professional services. So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain?
Last one, motion to approve payment in the amount of $25,440 for invoice number 10 for Consigli Construction Company for October 2023 professional services. So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Thank you, Mr. Ferranti.
Okay.
Unfinished business. We'll start with A, March 5th, 2024, election date. I'm not sure what that pertains to.
Primary election for the presidential election.
Okay, who wanted to bring it up?
I wanted to bring it up. It's a date that we somehow didn't pay attention to, I guess I'll say, when we were doing the calendar last fall. And I think that, as you know, there's been a lot of talk in the city this year about not having school on days when there are elections happening. So I guess I would recommend to the committee that that become a professional development day for teachers. And students get a day off. We would still meet the 180, it'd actually be at 182 days with students at that point.
So move.
And we would have to change the calendar for that, and I think, in all fairness, we should be doing it with the new committee that starts in January. I don't see a problem with it, but
I just wonder if we would want to make the decision sooner so that we can notify families and teachers.
that sounds good, too.
I would abstain, if you were voting today. I think it would be right for people who are not be on the committee. Oh, sorry. I don't think it would be right for people who are not going to be on the committee to make that decision. I think that the future committee would be, in January, it would be a better time to do it. But it's only my opinion. I'll abstain anyway.
Okay. Yeah. If we, just because I don't want you to put too much pressure on yourself, I think that if we had known about this date, we would have had this conversation last April.
Yeah,
and you would
I
have been
agree.
voting on it.
I agree.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. We would have if we had thought of it.
So what is the will of this committee? We would have to make a motion.
Motion to approve a no school day and PD day for March 4th.
Second.
March 5th.
We have the first and second. Do we have a discussion on it? Seeing none, I think roll call is in order for this. Sorry, Doc.
Mr. Michael Ferranti,
Yes.
Mr. John Kingston,
Yes.
Mrs. Aisha Milbury Ellis,
Yes.
Miss Jacqueline Monterosso,
Yes.
Miss Carol Ty,
Abstain.
Mayor Patrick Keefe, Mrs. Stacy Bronson Rizzo.
Yes. And we have another unfinished business being brought up by Miss Aisha Milbury Ellis that was on our last meeting, but where it ran so late, we said we weren't going to take up things that could be postponed. So I am going to give this one to Miss Milbury Ellis.
Thank you. It was essentially just questions regarding the honors program and the designation. I just wanted to have a clearer understanding of what's happening with that. I had 3 particular areas that I was hoping you could touch upon or provide us some information on. You said you were going to get it to us before this next meeting, but
Sorry.
it's okay. It's okay. I know. I almost forgot as well to bring this up. So some of that is which particular classes allow for the designation? And I realize you'll have to probably get back to us for this. How many students availed themselves of the honors program last semester? And then I was hoping to have this information spelled out in the student handbook, because you don't know how many times it's like parents ask about the honors program, or, you know, they say there is no honors program, and it would just be nice to have something in writing explaining exactly what it is, how students can avail themselves of it, and just so we're all on the same page with respect to it.
Okay, and I do have some of the information because I had gathered it for the meeting last month, which I just found back here. But we had, so the honors distinction is going to be available in every class. And they have started working on that already. I know that I met with Mr. Bowen and Ms. Riley just last week for one of our regular meetings, and Ms. Riley was talking about some of the data that they've already collected for first quarter, and the kids who had availed themselves of the honors credit already. I know that they're planning to give the committee a massive update in when they come and present on that and all of the other pieces, including the restructuring and all of that. I do think it will go in the handbook as soon as you know, they're through all of that pilot piece. But in terms of last year, they didn't really have much in place, to be honest, with the honors distinction, but they did have kids who took accelerated coursework. So we still had the 10th graders, for example, had still been in pre-AP in middle school prior to COVID. So they continued through with the advanced coursework that those kids took. And they were, for example, accelerated in their math class by a year. So they took functions in trigonometry, which is typically a junior or senior level course, they took as sophomores. And so they got honors credit for that. And then we had 427 students who took AP classes, and we had 107 students who took dual enrollment. And the dual enrollment in the AP also qualify as honors level coursework.
Could you just repeat those numbers for me one more time, please?
427. I actually can tell you 427 kids took 1,341 AP classes. That's for the kids who took more than one. And 107 students took 148 dual enrollment classes.
And did you say 247 were the number of students who availed themselves? Did I get that number, or did I just make that up?
47 10th graders who took the advanced,
That's it.
honors work. So altogether, that's 581, which is basically 28% of last year's high school population engaged in that more advanced honors kind of work. And just by, I can give you some comparisons that I looked at just with the AP data. And the dual enrollment data just, oh, wait a minute, what did I write down? Yeah, so we had 1,498 classes that kids earned college credit for. That was, so that's only if they passed it. Whereas if you go back 10 years ago to the 12-13 school year, we had less than 400 kids.
And we distinguish between the AP classes and the honors program as well,
Correct.
right?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, I look forward to that presentation.
Yeah.
Ms. Monterosso?
I think this is great that you brought this up, because I actually had a clarifying question, which may lead to a follow-up. Can you explain how the honors designation is brought upon a course?
Mm-hmm. So what the teachers have been working on for some time now are activities and tasks and assessments that all students in the class have an opportunity to complete that demonstrate some kind of a stretch in their understanding. If they successfully complete that work or that assignment or that assessment, then they get honors credit for that piece of work. And if they get honors credit for enough of the work that they do for that course, they get honors credit for the course overall.
And is this decided, is it like vertically or horizontally aligned? So would all ninth grade science teachers designate the same
Exactly,
work?
as honors.
Okay.
That's where the alignment would be.
So the reason I brought this question up is because I received a lot of feedback from different students about how in practice that makes sense, especially with competency based. It's very different, but then some teachers who have like higher or lower expectations in academic rigor then end up making it harder or easier for students in some classes to have the designation, which can lead to some inequity there. But I just wanted to know if you could speak a little bit on that.
Sure. So this is always a conundrum for us, that different teachers have different teaching styles. They prioritize different aspects of work. Some teachers feel like homework is sacred, and if you don't do it, then that should really impact your grade. The work that we've been doing in Revere for over a decade now has been on trying to bring a little more uniformity to the students' experience academically, both in how they receive instruction in a classroom and how their grades are determined by different teachers. And we've talked about this. I've talked about the inequity that comes out of grading systems that are what we call a mistake of geography. So if you end up in Miss Kelly's class, and Miss Kelly's really harsh and stern and strict, and anytime you miss a piece of work, you get a 0 added into your average, and it doesn't matter how many A's and B's you got on quizzes, because any of those zeros will pull that average down to a 60 very readily. But if you're in Mrs. Rizzo's same class, let's say it's geometry, and she allows you to do retakes, so that if you didn't do well on the test, but then you understood it later, you could do a retake and get a higher credit. And she believed in flip learning. So instead of relying heavily on the homework that you were assigned to do at home, she relied more heavily on the practice that you did in class. And, you know, all of the different pieces that we've been talking about for a very long time in the Revere Public Schools, that is inequity, because that is not fair to the kids. The two different students, the one who's in Miss Kelly's class and the one who's in Mrs. Rizzo's class, would have very different experiences. And those are the kinds of things that we're trying to work on. And by creating environments where all kids have access to rigorous, honors level, critical thinking work, we give them all the opportunity to excel. Instead of saying, you know, we're going to decide that certain kids are going to be eligible for honors level work and other kids won't be. And only the kids that are in that honors class are going to have the opportunity to think critically. And only kids in the honors class are going to have the chance to develop their own critical thinking skills. And only kids in honors classes are going to have the opportunity to apply their knowledge. Instead, we level the playing field and give everybody access to those opportunities. And some kids will take advantage of them all the time. Some kids will take advantage of them none of the time. But most kids who never would have had the opportunity will at least try some of the time. And in that experience, they will learn to think more critically, learn to take advantage of the things that they know better themselves, that maybe because of their personal experiences or their family experience or whatever the case may be, they might have a certain understanding that other kids wouldn't have. And the example I've given in the past of that is if you're in a U.S. history class and you're learning about the Revolutionary War, there are certain aspects that the Department of Education said every student needs to know about the Revolutionary War. And if your teacher has relayed that information and presented it in such a way that all kids can understand, kids can do really well on that. But we have a lot of kids who've come from other countries where they've experienced Revolutionary War firsthand themselves. None of us have. Well, I shouldn't say that. In the United States, none of us living today have actually experienced the Revolutionary War. But we have kids who have experienced Revolutionary War in their own countries. And if they were given a stretch assignment that instead of just saying, tell us this information that the Department of Education says you should know about the U.S. Revolutionary War, if instead they were given an assignment that said, compare and contrast the U.S. Revolutionary War with a Revolutionary War in some other country, how are they similar and how are they different? We have kids who could blow that assignment away because of what their experiences were, and them applying their knowledge in a critical thinking scenario such as the one that I just gave, where they're comparing and contrasting and using higher order thinking skills, is going to help them develop not only the self-confidence that they can do this honors level kind of work, but also gives them the opportunity to experience it. So I don't know. I've probably gone on 8 tangents.
You're fine. I appreciate the context. I think my thing is when we do have presentations, I want to hear from department heads or instructional coaches on how they're ensuring that the academic rigor is uniform. Because I've spoken to students who have the same math class, but one teacher, it's much harder to get the honors designation from one than someone who may be a first-year teacher or sees teaching differently and can give it just by completing homework. So that's where my concern lies.
Very
that there's
interesting. Yeah.
equity in how the level of rigor that triggers a honors, because now I have some students who it's just hard simply because they're placed in a different class than their peers. So that's where my concern is.
That's helpful to hear and definitely something that I'll look into. And if there were specific examples I could look into, that would be even more helpful rather than, yeah.
Mr. Kingston?
So kind of back to talking about children with different experiences and honors assignments, and talking about how some students may relate or be able to, like, as you say, knock out the park certain assignments in comparison with other students. Is it possible, like, looking into the idea of offering a variety of the same assignments rather than just one assignment?
Absolutely. And that is the direction that we need to go in. So ultimately, as we develop this out, and it takes time for the teachers to come to consensus and develop these things together, but ultimately the idea would be that we would have all of these different assignments available. And so this again would help us amplify student choice and voice by giving them the opportunity to select which way they want to earn honors credit, if they want to earn honors credit, you know what I mean? So, but that is the direction that the goal is set in, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't mean to, oh, I'm so sorry. I don't mean to keep talking, but for example, I really like that U.S. history example because, for example, somebody like me might enjoy something like talking in depth about things that impacted the American Revolution, while other students might prefer looking at the bigger picture and trying to pull in bigger topics. So I feel like having a variety would play a huge role in making sure that it is more equitable and that students are able to do what they can do best in their abilities.
Mr. Kingston?
I was told by a teacher, and not any relatives, that the high school is now starting, the students are starting at a 50 for a grade instead of a 0. I wasn't made aware of that. I don't know if it's a policy that we talk about, but I wouldn't mind having that conversation, only because I don't think I quite understand it, to be honest with you.
So
Thank you.
instead of starting at a 0, you start at a 50.
Everybody starts at 100, right?
Yeah, go the other way.
Well, no, sorry, my understanding, and I could be wrong, but my understanding was if you failed an assignment, you didn't get a 0, you got a 50.
Right.
That might be true, and Doc, I think that might have started like 20 years ago, maybe? Is that right?
I was told it's being, well, I don't know if to use the word enforced. I'll use whatever word someone wants me to use, but I was told by this particular teacher, and again, I'm stressing not a relative, that they spent the weekend changing grades because there were a number of students with 0s, and they were told to change them to 50s. Thank you.
So there were some discussions about that, even when I was a principal, and that discussion certainly evolved over the years. And there are many schools around the country, not just in Revere, that would prefer to assign a student 50. And the reason being is because when you assign a student 0, the likelihood for the child to get out of that 0, okay, it's going to be much harder. So it's basically about giving the child, because 50, at least you have a starting point. A 0 is something that we never get out of that hole. So that's the goal here, is to make sure that we look at the, take into account all perspectives, because basically it's a death sentence when you assign a child a 0. The encouragement, the motivation will go down. They will not be able to do work anymore. And we have a variety of students in our school district. So that conversation started a long time ago. I'm glad, to be honest with you, that they move in that direction. A 0 is a death sentence to a student.
So with that, I wanted to say I was going to send everyone this morning the Education Week. They had on 4 myths debunking the grading, and number 2 was starting at the 50 and explaining how much it does hurt a student. I never looked at it that way, but I think if I send the article, you'll understand it a little bit better. It's not like saying, like we used to say, if you can't even write your name on a piece of paper, it's a 0. It gives the possibility of there's a chance instead of looking. I'll send the article. It will explain it much better than I could ever.
And I just want to add one more thing. Revere Public Schools has been engaged for a long time in trying to making sure that our teachers understand the whole grading aspect. Because grading is very relative, and I understand there's a lot of tradition out there. Our teachers have been trained the one way of grading students. Bad habits usually take a long time to die, but we have to make sure that we work together collaboratively to really understand what the grade really means. Grade, sometimes it's very subjective, right? So we have a grading committee, actually, that has been working on this for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So we are looking at all the aspects, what the grading, what an A really means to a student, what the B means to a student, what an F, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a new way of thinking, and I'm glad that we really engage in this conversation because that's the right thing to do. So that's where the competency-based learning comes into play. Should we continue to use the letters grade, or we should go in a different way? So, giving the child the ability to show what the child can do and is able to do. That's where we need to go. And it's a new way of doing things. It will take time, but I think that with our idea, not idea, with our this whole concept of equity and changing practices and belief systems, we'll get there. It's just the right thing to do. You know, that's what I'd like to add.
I guess part of my, if I could, I guess part of my concern was I just wasn't aware of it. I didn't know if it was something that the school committee set a policy on, or I was a little taken back, because when the person said, do you know anything about this? I said, absolutely not. So when that happens, I usually feel, you know, I guess I wasn't informed or whatever. I'm not that I have to inform of everything, I'm not saying that, but I thought it was, you know, something that we kind of should be aware of. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Not only that, I feel like that it also plays with how teachers tend to grade things. I know that some teachers will be either more lenient or more strict on how they do zeros. And not only that, getting a 0 in certain types of classes can be really harmful. Like, for example, if I got a 0 in my AP World class, that would drastically hurt my grade. And thus, I would look at that and be incredibly unmotivated to study for the next essay or do this, because I know that it's going to be really, really hard to get that back up. So again, going off what the assistant superintendent said, it's really important making sure that student morale is up, especially in this time, that this post-COVID time.
Ms. Milbury-Ellis?
Dr. Kelly, how do the students know that they can avail themselves of the honors designation? How is that information transmitted to them and to the parents right now?
I know that Mr. Bowen held community meetings over the summer and explained this all to parents and students, and I know he's sent letters to them. I can ask him to share those.
That's okay.
With
but
okay.
it's disseminated out there, and I guess once it's in the handbook, then.
Yeah,
Well,
that
maybe
I
they
think
can-
having it in the handbook is going to make it a lot clearer for everybody, because it's the one place they go. I have a feeling that there's probably some parents who maybe don't even recall what was in a letter that they got from Mr. Bowen in July, you know?
But if it's a source that we can easily point to and,
Yeah.
and direct people to, that'd
Yeah.
help.
Okay, thank you, everyone. And next, new business, not seeing anything. We have nothing for executive session. Do we have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Any peace offering for a happy Thanksgiving?
Happy Thanksgiving.
Okay, we'll see everyone in December.